Have you ever considered buying a piece of land, building some tiny homes, building a small town, even? Well, our guests today have done just that. We have Freeth'm. They're building self sufficient towns for freedom seekers in Portugal and Spain. Welcome back to the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. Today, we bring on two of the co-founders of Freeth'm, Or and Susanna. Welcome to the podcast, guys.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having us, Vance. Lovely to
Hi,
be here.
happy to be here.
Absolutely. So I first heard about you guys, I think in some of these Telegram groups, right? It's like the Country Founders one, and I think there's another one.
Yeah.
And you guys are in there. We're talking about all the sovereign stuff. And I particularly liked your project because it's in Spain, Portugal, which is kind of a interest area of ours. You know, we do residency visas and so forth for these countries. And I enjoy spending time in Portugal, Spain, and I saw you were kind of looking for investors and you're building stuff out there. So I really want to hear about the project and what you guys got going on. Maybe you could kind of take us from the top.
Sure, Susanna, please.
Oh,
You.
okay. Right. So we're actually primarily focused on Portugal as of right
Hmm.
now. We have a few properties that we're scouting, all within some 60, 90 minutes um, from Lisbon, actually. So kind of like central Portugal, mainland Portugal, too.
Hmm.
Some beautiful rural and semi-rural places because we're all about essentially off-grid living, but with high-tech amenities that we're used to getting and having at our disposal when you live in a city. And we're in a way we wish to decentralize away from cities, from mainstream society in a way, from
Hmm.
the never ending noise and pollution of media and politicians that just keep, blabbering and throwing, all kinds of stuff at you that you might not be necessarily interested in. So we're finding our own path or building our own path rather. Uh, and again, we're looking for the perfect property. We're in the last stages actually of looking at some of these. We have obviously a lot of criteria that it has to check all the boxes. So we're working on that. And you mentioned, Vans, that we're looking for investors. We're starting to raise quite soon, actually. So these are obviously two very big and important milestones: the property and the money, of course. And then once we have that secured, we will actually get to the building itself. Of course, we were acquiring greenfields, so there is a lot of work to be done in that regard before we actually get to the building itself. However,
Hmm.
we do plan on utilizing prefabricated materials, so building with prefab. And as you might know, prefab structures, houses, and buildings come together fairly quickly. So right now we're looking at the end of the next year of 2025 or the beginning of 26 to kind of have our first houses standing and our first residents moving in. So it's been an exciting journey so far. Freeth'm has been in the making for about the last 4 years.
Hmm.
Is when Or came up with it, and I'm sure he will tell you about that in a little bit.
Hmm.
But now we have finally gotten to the stage when we are ready to transport and transform all of this from the online realm, so to say, into the physical, into the offline world. And so it's really, really exciting, and we're very excited for what is to come. Yeah.
Cool. Maybe, or you could bring us through the early steps and how things have grown over the past 4 years.
Sure. Well, I guess like many of us, during COVID, I was, I was, I was pretty upset uh, with the way we were locked in, um, and I kind of, after I guess it was a decade before, or even 2 decades, that I've been reading about conspiracies and what people do behind the stage, and at some point in your life, you decide if you want to do something about it or not. I guess I was avoiding it before that. I was hoping that someone out there, an honest politician will come and correct those things, but it's not happening. So after a tough personal experience during COVID, when I had to um, close down my companies, that was for me, the time that I said enough. I've been building my companies for the last, I've been building myself for a long time, uh, taking different jobs, building myself, creating those businesses, and eventually the government in without thinking too much over, or the opposite, just canceling all this, and that was pretty upsetting, and I knew there are many people in the same situation, and that there was some sort of kind of awakening, like an extra awakening among people. I'm not talking about woke culture. I'm talking about awakening in the sense of, hey, we need to take those things into our hands. We need to take our destiny into our hands. Um, so yeah, I decided not to wait for anyone, and start walking myself. With the time, we gather an amazing team. Susanna is here doing an amazing job for the last year. But we gathered some architects, engineers, a biologist. We really took it seriously. We went with an approach that is super holistic. So we won't have to. I mean, the people that will come and live with Freedom will not have to sacrifice anything. Would not lose anything from leaving the
The
place where they are
amenities.
right now.
And just to give people an idea, I mean, there'll be a link in the description to freethm.com, freethm.com. And you got like chicken coops, co working spaces. What else? What other amenities we got?
Oh, we got
Outdoor
plenty.
farming. Looks like a library type building, swimming
Yeah.
pool, dog houses.
We
Basically,
got
like what
beehives
come
too.
beehives. Kind of when you think about like a homestead, sort of, or like a family compound. A lot of that stuff comes to mind.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's kind of off-grid living, with these amenities that just make life a little bit or a lot more comfortable and safe in a way too, and secure, because we're big on self-sufficiency as well as sustainability. But really, the self-sufficiency part is very important for us because our ultimate goal, in the hopefully not so foreseeable future, or not so far far future, is to build multiple freedom towns in various jurisdictions so that we can offer a global membership to our residents so they can kind of hop in between. However, we do want every freedom town to be truly self-sufficient and independent in a way from the outer world, not isolated. Obviously,
Hmm.
people are welcome to come in and leave whenever they want to, of course, but independent in the sense that we generate all our energy. We have our own grid in every town. We are sufficient in terms of food, thanks to these farming places, both indoor, outdoor, and other amenities that are meant for growing food. We obviously also only look for properties that have natural water sources, and in terms of the entire infrastructure, or is the one who is better equipped to talk about this.
Yeah.
But with all the energy stuff and the grid, we have worked through everything, with the architects, with the engineers that Or mentioned a while ago. We have everything pretty much ready to go. So again, we're just waiting for the property, of course. That is an essential step.
Hmm.
But yeah, just building these, homesteads, off-grid living that is a lot easier in certain ways and a lot cheaper in many ways, of course, because we also affordability is very, very important for us. We
Hmm.
feel that plenty of these intentional or eco communities or whatever we call them really targets higher net worth people. And we do want to make sure that freedom is available and accessible to just about everyone. So we have various types of housings as well.
Hmm.
We have three levels, right, of housing, from like basic to like luxurious. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, maybe I can add to it that when I first started thinking about this venture, these towns, I was imagining like what would be the ideal freedom for people, and that would probably be like taking yourself or your family very far away, and doing this homestead kind of life, right? But then when you think about all these obstacles in between and the harsh life, um, I think it prevents a lot of people from doing that, right? Because you don't really have, on most cases, you won't have a supportive community. You will be far away from people. Education will be a complicated thing to do, and there's a lot of hard work in agriculture and growing your own
Mm.
food. So we wanted just to try and simplify that, take the good things from that, and uh, build the houses like single family houses with privacy, with all these amenities she just spoke about, to help you be totally self-sufficient, but in the same time not to give up on the option of having like-minded people nearby you. When we say like-minded people, and we will explain later on about our agenda, uh, um, but yeah, we were trying to fill the gap between going totally off grid to Alaska all alone, and trying to do it together with, um, on some sort of platform that we can agree on, not
Hmm.
necessarily going to the direction of a cult or some strict rules, like many communities do. I mean, maybe they don't call themselves cult, but there are a lot of obligations and you need to participate in those things. So in our community, we don't want that. um, so if someone wants to volunteer or work or whatever, he can organize that together with other people from the community, so we will not obligate anyone to participate in anything, basically.
Hmm.
um, we believe that people will connect because they share values, because they believe in liberty, because they believe in live and let live. um, yeah.
Where does the name come from? Freeth'm. Who came up with the name?
Me. Well, at the beginning, I started with the word reset because I wanted kind of to go against those reset ideas that the World Bank has and the UN, right? So I wanted to have like my own idea of reset, but I saw that people got scared of it. So I had freedom in my mind, and I just played with the word a little bit, with the word freedom with a D,
Hmm.
kind of made it a little bit. More closer to what I feel, freeing them, freeing the people, freeing us.
Cool. I like it. And so, or you're Israeli originally, I believe, and then Susanna, are you Czech?
Yes, I
Czech,
am.
Czechian? I don't even know how they
Checkmate.
say it.
Just check.
Czech.
Just check. Keep it short.
Are you Czech? Um, and neither of you are in Portugal right now, so you're like looking for properties remotely, or you have a team locally on the ground in Portugal, or how does that kind of work?
So I just came back about 2 months ago from 5 months in Portugal. So I go very frequent when we have things to see or to
Hmm.
people to meet. Um, but soon, probably in around the end of January or mid of January, we plan to make the move to there, and to decide to make the final decision about which land are we taking, as we have about
Hmm.
4 options that we like, and we're gonna do it soon. So we're gonna move there very soon, and we do have people, local people who help us. People from the Polytechnic University in Portugal, um, obviously some real estate agents, lawyers, um, yeah. So
Especially lawyers.
yeah.
And how big of a plot of land are you looking at?
So the minimum size we would take is about 100 hectares.
Oh shit! That's
Yes.
a minimum 100 hectares.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
pretty big.
It's not
Yeah.
small.
Yeah. Well, you should take into consideration that you cannot really build on all of it,
Hmm.
and our goal is to provide space. And when you go rural, many of those lands are made for agriculture.
Hmm.
So we need all this space, but it's not necessarily to fill it with intense construction.
Right, it's not going to be an American suburb.
No.
No.
Okay, 100 hectares is a lot, though. I mean, especially within 60 to 90 minutes of Lisbon, that's going to be expensive. It would probably be cheaper if you were in northern Portugal, in the middle of nowhere, like near, up near whatever, northern Portugal. But like within 60, 90 minutes of Lisbon, that's going to be expensive. How are we gonna finance said purchase?
It's not necessarily expensive. I mean, depends to what you compare it. So I wanted to build in Azores, right? And in Azores it's four
On the
times more.
islands.
Hmm.
Yes, and then it's four
Uh-huh.
times more expensive per square meter.
Really?
Um,
Yeah.
yes, of course. So I think that Portugal is very interesting because you have the coast, and then about an hour from the coast is like you're in rural area almost. I mean, it feels
Hmm.
rural. It looks rural.
Yeah, yeah.
The official rural is about 1 hour and 15 minutes or 20 minutes from Lisbon. But yeah, Portugal is it's interesting the way it builds. It allows you to be not that far, and it's not that expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, it
If you
doesn't.
compare it, sorry.
I just want to say it doesn't mean that you have to do it because you're closer to Lisbon to have a more luxurious or more high end product. Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Please, Susanna. I sorry I cut
And we've obviously done our property research and market research in terms of if you look at, for instance, northern Portugal, but even especially like northern Spain, properties are really really cheap. However, just because self sufficiency is such an important part of freedom, we select properties or locations that are in warmer climates. So even the north of Portugal is a little colder, and of course we also have to be aware of the fires because Portugal, there's plenty of these fire areas, so we obviously select those that are not like that. But again, I mean, it's just weighing the options, just like Or mentioned. Obviously the zoning laws are very very specific, and every property that we look at, we want to direct roughly half of it to agriculture, all the farming, again, food, of course. And then, like Or said, the housing itself, we don't want it. We don't want it crowded. Obviously, we have some co-living and very, very affordable or low cost rather options. But then we go all the way into larger family villas, and like, along with self sufficiency, privacy is of course very important for us, just for respecting the power of each individual resident or family. And so, besides the co-living, of course, all the housing or all the houses will be detached and will stand on their own with some property around them for said swimming pool or a beehive or a doghouse, whatever you have. So we obviously do need the space for that. But with that said, with the size of the property, we want to cap each town, and Or correct me if I'm wrong, but we want to cap it at roughly 300-ish houses. So that translates, give or take,
Is it
700-800
300
people.
houses?
Yes.
300 homes. Yeah.
Yeah,
300
yeah, yeah.
homes
Yeah.
Yes.
on 100 hectares. So three people per hectare, roughly.
Roughly. Yeah.
One
It's not the
family
amount
per
of
hectare.
people; it's the amount of units. So
Yeah.
you will have more people. You will have families. It's not only for.
Right, because it's like how many independent structures, that's probably a piece of it too, versus, I don't know, like multifamily properties.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we're talking about, let's say, 25% or 22% affordable housing. So they will not be detached. What is super affordable, it would be for students or single parents or entrepreneurs like me that bootstrap. That would be like some sort of a complex, and then the rest will be a single family.
Okay, so sort of like a mix of housing styles.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to know how much is it going to cost me for 100 hectares in Portugal if I want to like what's kind of the budget? Is it like, I guess, sort of per hectare is the
It
way
depends
that,
how much they allow you to build. In some lands they allow you to build 3%. In some lands they it jumps. Some lands I even saw for 0.03%, something ridiculous. So you get 300 hectares, but you can build like
two houses?
10,000 square meter or something
Mm.
ridiculous.
Uh-huh.
So it depends. some lands are also many of them actually. People connect different lands, like neighboring lands, and then they come up with to you with nine owners together, each one with a little piece, and each piece has a little different definition of what it allows or not. So when you connect them, you apply for a new license, and then you get. It really depends.
Hmm.
So you can go. I saw just now yesterday. I received something of 100 and I think it was 102 hectares, an hour plus from less than an hour and a half from Lisbon, for 10
10
million.
what? 10
10
million
million. Yeah.
euros?
Yeah.
It's pretty expensive.
Yeah, but we don't go to this one specifically. But I mean, it varies.
Okay. So what's the budget? And how are you financing it? I guess equally as important, right? Because you're trying to get investors and probably maybe some mix of like equity and debt or something. How would you finance? Because and then purchasing the land is one piece of it, but then also I don't know if you then are like selling plots on the property or you just sort of like rent. um you sort of like you keep owning the land but then you rent like space or something like that. I'm sure there's a lot of creative ways that this could
Yeah.
be done, and you've probably I'm guessing you've had to go back and forth and tweak the model a little bit, the business model, to find what works. What are you finding? What have you learned throughout the process of these years of research in terms of what model might work best here?
Well, I think that it's quite obvious that the best way for any kind of community to establish is to find the crowd having the community before buying the land, and then selling the plots, right? I guess this is the easiest way.
Hmm.
But we are not going to that direction, not just because we're looking for the hard way. It's also because we see a problem that is occurring with many communities when people start disagreeing with each other. Um, and we wanted to build something that will sustain, that will be, when you say sustainable, I mean that will last for a long time. So our model is a build to rent, is something that is pretty new. I mean, trendy, I would say,
Hmm.
new trend in real estate. More people are paying attention to this segment. So basically, developing real estate and leasing them, or renting them, depends. So we have short term and long term. But basically, all the housing and the public areas, offices, um, all this we're going to build ourselves. So besides, including commercial area and all this. So yeah, beside the industrial, that maybe, I don't know if you saw our presentation or not, because we also have a little industrial area.
No, tell me about that.
Yeah. So yeah, where was I before? I don't remember, but
Just finding like a structure that makes sense, because you're
okay.
gonna
Built
to
to
Yeah,
buy
rent.
yeah.
a property. It sounds like it's gonna be at least $1 million, right? Um, so yeah,
Yes.
what's the game plan here?
So we thought that build for rent, it makes more sense for us, because we can then manage the community as we believe, okay, with our agenda. And if someone is making troubles, or damaging facilities, or annoying neighbors, or something like that, we will be able to ask him to leave, right?
Hmm.
So this is the technical thing. Now, regarding investment, what we plan to do is to buy the land, to loan the money, buy the land, and then get the partially from the bank, partially from private money. We're looking into mainly impact investors, because we do make impact in all three ESG segments. So we are quite attractive to impact investors, because we're backing this up with real estate. So
Mhm.
we're making a sustainable investment, which is very attractive. You get some tax back from the country, it depends where you are, and you also enjoy. We also have grants and other incentives, because of it's a green and sustainable project. But yeah, this is the model we believe in. This is the type of investors we are looking at.
Yeah. And the build to rent model also ties into the global membership, which I mentioned a while ago, just thanks to its flexibility. Because also in regards to affordability, obviously, for the residents or whoever wants to move in to purchase a plot of land or a house requires, a significantly higher cost rather than being able to rent right away. And it's quick, it's prompt. So if you want to enter and if you want to leave to a different Freeth'm town or elsewhere entirely, you're free to do so in a quick amount of time. So you don't have to worry about selling. You don't have to worry about any furniture. All the houses will essentially come in equipped or furnished rather. So just the flexibility factor of the build to rent model as well is super super practical for us too.
Okay. So basically all the community members are essentially going to be tenants or renters for the most part.
Yes.
Okay. That makes sense. And what will they like what's the structure for the rent, I guess? They're because they're getting access to maybe their direct living facilities, but then they also have access to like the farm and all these sort of like communal things as well, right?
Hmm.
Yes. Yes. We will have it more clear later on,
Hmm.
when the thing becomes, when we go another step forward. We will say exactly what's included, but what we presume is that, of course, we'll have the public area, office spaces, meeting rooms, gym, all these essential things. um, mm, Z, you want to?
Yeah. Essentially, what is really important to any freedom town is the resident contracts, which, similar to the concept of free private cities, if you're familiar with that, they are
Hmm.
tied to the citizen contract, and so we kind of took inspiration from that. And
Like Ciudad Morazan.
yeah, sure. So that
Exactly.
Marsan
We've had
Prospera.
we've had them on. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So essentially, anyone who will want to live in freedom, however long or short term, and of course, we prioritize long term people who will actually live there. However, we are open, just like Or mentioned, to slow mads or even tourists, for a week for a short amount of time. But however, anyone who will want to live there will be obliged to sign and enter into and abide by the resident contract, and that will list, of course, just like a regular contract, all the terms and conditions of the state within Freeth'm, as well as all the costs in regards to rent, all the amenities that the person or the family or the person will be using, and everything. So the resident contract is an important factor as well.
Definitely makes sense. And I think with Ciudad Morazan, they do like 3 month contracts at a time or something like that. Like they don't
Mm.
even do 12-month leases. Are you going to do something similar or some sort of improvement on the classic 12-month lease model?
Well, I think we're gonna leave it. We're gonna give all the options, of course, at least at the beginning, to see how it develops. Some people tell us that they're looking for a long term. Some people tell us they're looking for short term. So we need to see how it goes. Obviously, there's less costs on our side when someone takes the place for a longer term. So we will figure that out. But there's nothing. I mean, we didn't think about a specific term. I mean, we can have, the 1 year is the long term. It has a specific discount, and if you take it for 6 months, it has a different one. And
Hmm.
yeah,
There will be options.
yes.
Definitely makes sense. And tell me about so you're saying like prefab buildings is something that you've looked into and might be like a pretty viable way to go. Obviously, it would probably be faster than building buildings from scratch. Probably requires a little bit more upfront capital though, because you need the cash like upfront probably to buy these things. But how did you kind of and where are you going to get these prefab things? Did you find like some company in Portugal that like makes awesome prefab chicken coops and stuff, or like what's the how's that work?
I'm not worried too much about the chicken coop, but regarding
Yeah.
regarding prefab companies, they are really. I mean, I started searching 4 years ago. So 4 years when I started that, I was sure that I'm going to build straight away, right? I was running and straight away was looking for suppliers. So I kind of know what's going on, even though there are many new companies popping all the time. It became something super trendy too, you know. So I'm seeing suppliers from all over the world,
Mm.
Europe, and anywhere. We have one giant, very interesting supplier in Germany that we might work with. In Portugal, there are some, for example, representatives of Scandinavian types of prefabs. We have contacts with a Canadian company too that is doing specific yurtas with kind of parquet, something very very interesting that we are thinking to take. But basically, there are providers from all over the world. It's really
This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Crema Social. Crema Social is like TikTok for international dating. It's an app you can download right now on your phone, and 3 out of 4 people on Crema are single women. The app was founded in Colombia, so unsurprisingly, there are a lot of Latinas on the app, by the way. So, how does it work? Crema Social is a social meal experience where you invite a hot girl for a lunch date via video call and food delivery. New concept, so you'll have to try it out for yourself, but this is probably the best way to meet Latinas before you visit the country. So if you're in Latin America or planning to visit Latin America, download Crema Social now and start getting dates right away. There will be a link in the description to download, or just search Crema Social on your favorite app store. Have fun, guys. This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Bit Refill. Bit Refill is the best way to spend your crypto in Latin America. Purchase gift cards or mobile refills from more than 3,500 brands in 186 countries instantly, safely, and privately. You can also apply the code MyLatinLife at checkout to get 10% back on your first purchase. Go to bitrefill.com for more information. This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Job Stacking. If you are a remote or hybrid worker looking to maximize your earning potential, then Rolf Holze, the author of Job Stacking, guarantees you'll be able to double your income. This is the exact system Rolf has used to take his own income and those of many others beyond 20K a month. So what is job stacking? It's this idea of working multiple remote jobs. You might have heard Rolf, he's worked 5, 7, even 9 remote jobs at the same time before. And by the way, job stacking works equally well for non-technical roles. So no, it's not just for the nerds. So if you're ready to job stack, then book a discovery call with Job Stacking and see how they can double your income in just 9 weeks. In the show notes in the description, there will be a link where you can book a call directly on the Calendly of Job Stacking and be talking with them as early as tomorrow about how to double your income as quickly as possible.
it's really not a problem. What's interesting is that in each land we encounter different materials on the land itself, and this is something that the architects are passionate about. So one of the land we had a lot of clay, like the whole ground was kind of pinky, and they were super excited about that. They said we can build from the materials from the land we have here. We don't need anything. I mean, we have stones and we can build with together with the clay. Now, of course, we don't want this to be like ultra hippie breaking place, right? This is not the goal. We want this to be built properly and sustained. So again, we'll see. We have, as Susanna said before, we have 3 ranges of prices. So maybe I can go more specific with you and tell you that the rents are going to be like something like starting from €9 per square meter all the way to second station is about €12 per square meter, and then we go to a luxury one where it's going to be about 20 or something like that. So this is just to give you an idea about the costs.
Awesome.
So yeah,
And what about sort of the infrastructure aspect of things? So electricity, plumbing, probably going to use Starlink or something, I'm guessing. But walk
Yeah.
us through some of the basic infrastructure pieces of it.
sure. Okay, so energy, again, it depends on the land, and where we're gonna be. The combination between sun, wind, or if we will have water running over there, maybe we can use that energy too. And then there's this microgrid who manage all the needs from the different areas of the town. Um, Something super interesting is the waste management. It's not something that we invented, but it's just something that we use. Um, there's a beautiful company called Home Biogas. So they have a nice product for organic waste, for example. So
Hmm.
you can place this device next to your home, 5 6 meters from your home. It doesn't smell or anything. You throw your organic trash to there every day, and this produces biogas back to you for 3 hours of cooking per day. Okay, so we are treating the problem, and we also giving kind of a bonus, because a bonus, it's natural bonus. When you do it in the right way, you get the benefit out of it. So it's another example. Another example of biogas that we do
Hmm.
is with the sewage. I don't know if you know, but a sewage, from sewage you can also get a methane gas, and a fertilizer in the end of the process.
Hmm.
So this is also something we're going to use. um, a gray water treatment.
Hmm.
Um, we spoke about getting water from underground. So all of the lands that we're looking at have underground water that is sufficient for the people to live there. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe I can say one thing about the gray water, because it's beautiful process. So it's something that we take from permaculture, for example. Um, so the gray water, the water that we use for the shower, or gray water that are not from the toilet, they go through a kind of a biological process of cleaning, pass through a specific ponds, 3 or 4 ponds, and it pass through specific plants and animals
Hmm.
that are in those ponds, and in the end of the process the water are coming out good enough for irrigation. So we recycle all the gray water back to the system.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
all of these companies that we're looking into are just really exciting. For me, this was brand new, and Or walked me through this actually a while ago. And these are companies that are obviously that target like off-grid people or homesteaders, stuff like this. So similar to us, of course. But I find it really fascinating because if you look at the generation of maybe our grandparents that kind of lived, a self-sufficient life because they didn't really even have a choice to do otherwise, obviously. It's just all of these amenities or all of these tools just make it so much easier. And for instance, with the biogas that Or mentioned, what is the initial phase? Like 3 weeks to get it started, and then you have biogas, for like hours every day to cook with it. Like you don't even use it up. So it's just really fascinating. All of these tools that make life so much easier, and you actually really get to use up everything, like literally everything. And you get to make something out of it. So for me, especially, this is really, really exciting. All the infrastructure stuff, maybe, or you want to mention something about even the aquaponic, hydroponic systems.
yes, yes. I don't know if you, Vance, you familiar with that, with aquaponic systems. Are you guys using it in Canada? Is it
Well, I'm in Mexico these days, but no, tell me more about it.
right? So there are ways to increase yield and get the things get the work much easier. So aquaponics solves a very big problem, a problem of space, of water usage, and of labor. So basically you can put the plants in the level inside tubes. They will be floating in water. They don't need any kind of soil. Only the soil that they come with is just a little, when the plant is coming as a baby. um, you put it in the water. Depends on the system. Some of them can float, some of them are just on a specific tube, just standing fixed. And then the nutrients that the plants need, coming from the fish that are in the water, that are cycling, that are coming back to them, right? So this is a almost a closed system where we just need to feed the fish with something, and they're whatever they um, their pee and poop of the fish is a food for the plants, and the
Mm,
plants do some sort of cleaning back to the fish, and they both live in harmony with the minimum maintenance, and every person can operate that. It's quite simple.
easily.
You don't need to break your back and spend hours in the sun. And I installed it in my parents' house 3.5 years ago, and they're enjoying it until now with over 150 plants uh, running all the time with the same little pump of cost me about $7, and this pump is running for until now 24/7. So it makes a lot of sense.
I didn't realize how much of the sort of hippie sustainable component you guys had thought about. Like, I thought it was going to be a bit more, you know, sort of like alluding to or using like motifs of sustainability, but still kind of like largely maybe, I don't know, connected to the grid or like, garbage service and all that type of stuff. But it seems like you guys are going super hard in terms of the sustainability and really thinking of every aspect of things.
Yeah. I mean, like we said, self sufficiency is really big for us. I don't know about you, but I've lived in the city for the majority of my life. And, to be honest, as horrible as it is in a way to say this, I am not self sufficient at all. And, we saw just 4 years ago, during the pandemic era, how everything was taken from us. I mean, I was lucky enough. I could, in the Czech Republic, it wasn't that horrible, but it was horrible enough. Grocery stores were still stocked, and there was plenty of food, but not every country, not every city was that lucky, and it's a little scary if you look back at it. And so this is what we want to avoid, potentially ever experiencing ever again. And so this is why we're so heavy on self-sufficiency, and sustainability goes hand in hand with it, but I think really self-sufficiency is the priority for us. And we have an amazing engineer on the team. Her specialization is sustainability in these regards. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, but for me, like I said, the technology is really fascinating, and it's not so difficult actually. But just staying out of the city and living somewhere where it's a little bit more green, it just makes it a bit more easier, a bit more easy actually. Yeah, so it's exciting.
No, that's awesome, and it's true. Do you think that like sustainability becomes easier in a community setting than an individual? A lot of people coming going back to the kind of homestead thing. A lot of people think,
Hmm.
"Oh, I'll do a homestead, be me, my wife, my 5 kids." But you have to think about a lot more stuff and a lot more variables at an individual level, right? Where maybe as if you're doing in a community of 300 people and you're sort of sharing that responsibility, it becomes in a way easier to be sustainable.
Yeah, 100%. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously, it all depends on, your resources and your approach. I mean, you can certainly make it easy for yourself, but I think on an individual level, it certainly can be very, very challenging. It's just like, you can only own one cow, but it takes a lot of your time, and it takes a lot of effort and a lot of work that goes into it. Whereas on a community level, if you have some livestock, but especially with all these farming spaces, and again, with all these like high tech amenities, essentially, obviously is the amenities themselves that make it really easy, but also just the community kind of taking care of each other and providing for the individual parts of it. It just makes it flow that much more smoothly, for sure.
It definitely makes sense. And then how would you expand beyond, say, 300 people? I guess, would you try to buy a piece of land, maybe like beside the current piece of land, or you would have to do it city by city, right? Because that's what you want to do is maybe do this one 300.
Hmm.
people, 100 hectares near Lisbon. And then what would be maybe the next city?
We're looking for places that are, that, that they're first, they should be safe.
Mm.
We don't want to get into a place where I've been living in third world countries for a long time. I have personally nothing against it. I love it. Makes me feel awake. Makes me feel sharp.
Yep, yep.
But
Feeling alive over here in Latin America for sure.
exactly, exactly. But when I take the responsibility and inviting people to live somewhere, I think I should. I think I should be. At least on me, it feels like I have to bring them in a place where I can keep them safe. At least, not as a not as a prime minister. It's just, if I, just to feel good about what we do. We don't want to just take a cheap land in wherever, south of Asia, or in some place in South America, and then get uh, potential problems there. So,
Yeah. I mean,
uh,
again, just looking
so
at, Honduras, like Prospera, Ciudad Morazan, what they have been going through, it's not always easy, which is really unfortunate because they're doing absolutely amazing things, both for the locals, for their safety, as well as, for the business environment overall. But we just generally focus on more economically stable locations, whatever that means, for the time being, at least.
we can say that we're looking at the states. We're looking at
Mm,
Texas.
mm,
We're looking at some
interesting.
place in the Caribbean, but the Caribbean is quite costly.
Mm,
We want to go to South America,
Right,
especially.
right. Argentina, something like that.
Exactly, exactly. Argentina is fascinating. What's going on there and what will happen there, but we need to kind of wait a little bit and see. Probably be a little bit deeper into the project, maybe the second or the third year. This is my plan,
Hmm.
um, to purchase the second and the third location. So we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it fairly quickly.
You know what I'm thinking about is because it's so sustainable, your project, and then we'll have it'll spit off cash flow, right? I feel like you guys would be able to get like government grants and stuff like that. Like they're giving like billions of dollars to all these NGOs and stuff like that, and especially in Europe, everything's all about sustainability. Have you
mm.
guys been trying to get some government money? Right? Don't they have like OECD development funds and all this type of stuff?
So yeah, there's a lot of funds. Of course, there are many grants. I think it's all over the world, not just in Europe. But yeah, in Europe, it's very significant. And yes, we know that it's part of our, our calculations are not made with the grants, but we know
Right.
we're gonna receive grant, but we don't know how many percent from the cost of construction. But I've seen projects being funded for 60% or 40% of the
Mm.
whole cost of
Wow.
construction.
Yeah,
So
Seriously.
yes,
it's
I've
big.
seen one in my own eyes in the north of Spain. I went to visit it. I saw this building that I don't know how much. I saw that there was in the contract of the grant there was 40% financing from the EU.
From
And
the
then I went
U.
to visit this beautiful wooden building in Galicia, in north of Spain, and it was empty. And I spent a month nearby this place to see what's going on, and nothing's going on. So there are many examples like that. So they're throwing this money to bullshit, sorry for the word, projects that I don't know if someone on the other side really cares about that, or it's just traders that it's easy for them to get the grant, so they invent projects that no one needs. So I saw this, and I was, we're all upset of how they use our taxes, right? Um,
Hmm.
uh, we don't want them to throw it like that, but if they already do it, so I think I can make a better use of that money.
Yeah, I mean that would completely change the cost structure, right? If they could finance 40, 50%.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, it's gonna be 6 million, give me 3 million, something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. And then might even be easier to get the bank loan too. And so it sounds like you might only need, if all things work out um, in an ideal situation, you might only need like 10% equity or something like that relative to.
Well, Theoretically, but um, it doesn't work like that. I mean, let's say the banks in Europe. From what I heard, just I think it was 5 days ago, I had a call with another entrepreneur from Portugal. We were talking about her project in Ericeira. She's building a hotel,
Hmm.
and she told me that the bank agreed to give her 60% of the cost
Hmm.
of construction,
Hmm.
but only after she will invest the 40% in, not in the bank, build with the 40% of the money.
Oh, that's weird.
Hmm.
So it really, and also the grant, it's not coming straight away. You need to apply. You need to. It can take about 2.5, 3 years into the project to receive that. So we cannot count on it. I mean,
Hmm.
we will get it, but when we get it, we will be able to develop other things.
Do you think if you got grants, though, it would limit your free speech and your ability to talk about things like the pandemic and this kind of messaging and appeal to that type of people?
No, I don't think so.
We'll do our best not to let it.
No, I mean, what can they say? I mean, they can take the money back because you say something. I don't think so.
You're going to have 100 people tweeting from the farm. The police is going to be coming every single week, being like, because you know how like in Europe they just like show up to your house now if you tweet about mass
We won't
migration
be
or
tweeting.
whatever.
We'll just be on Noster, so they
Yeah.
can get
Portugal
to
is
us.
very one of the reasons of going outside. Why we call it decentralized? The police, where is it standing? Where is the 90% of the police force? It's standing where most of the people are. You go to rural, you have less chances of people. You are under the radar. It doesn't mean that we're going to do something super illegal, but it's also
Uh-huh.
a private property. I mean, if they want to get in, they need a
A
reason.
warrant.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
No, but it's
No, but
important.
it's
Yeah.
it's a valid point for sure.
Another example I would like to give you. So we spoke about infrastructure.
Hmm.
So imagine a situation that uh, one of the projects we investigated. I've been talking with the mayor and explaining him about the infrastructure and explaining him about the sewage system, and I asked him how the sewage system in the town is working. So he said, in the center of the town everything is okay, but all these little towns around, they only have septic holes,
Mm,
and it's not organized. It's horrible. People are digging and digging, and the smell is going everywhere. Imagine I don't know how many years they do it, hundreds of years
mm,
in those villages. So we can offer them. We can say, you know what? Let us take care of your sewage. Give us your sewage. Connect your pipes to the entry of our town, and we can give you this service for a payment or just a little power. I'm not talking about any conspiracy. I'm talking about if they want to harm, they would like to harm us for no reason. If we do things like that and also kind of enter with them into the infrastructure, into things that they are also kind of codependent, it will be a different conversation. Obviously, we're small. Who are we? Yeah, I'm sure they're not gonna. If they want to destroy us, any government can do that. But we're not gonna give them the reason to do that. We're not going against any government. We are even helping
Right.
government to
Like a
provide to maximize
public-private partnership.
liberty to something that they forget to do.
yeah.
Hmm. Definitely makes sense. And I'm curious about how you're trying to recruit people, right? So I'm not sure. Obviously, we're on the podcast right now, spreading awareness. But are you going after, say, primarily digital nomads or retirees, or people with independent income streams? Or you also mentioned going for maybe lower income people, or maybe just people who don't have location independent income. Maybe they're like a school teacher or something like that, and they'd have to leave their job, come to your community. Maybe you know what I mean, or like how do you kind of find people who's a good fit? What's the avatar you're looking for?
Yeah. Yeah, so location independence is for sure a handy factor for the future residents. So digital nomads, remote workers. With that said, every freedom town will provide some employment as well as business or entrepreneurship opportunities. However, digital nomads, remote workers, as well as families in this sphere will definitely fit in Freeth'm really well. We target homeschoolers as well. This is also one of the reasons
Hmm.
why we're starting with Portugal, because homeschooling is legal in Portugal, unlike Spain, for instance. And
Interesting.
we have some homeschooling partners or platforms that we work with, and we'll potentially have some of their educators in our town and space too. So that's pretty exciting. We target, of course, people who value their lives. So, libertarians, ANCAPs, anarcho-capitalists, Bitcoiners, of course. And the way we target them is, I mean, of course, directly via our own website, social media, newsletter, podcasts, of course, and events as well. I mean, we've been, recently took part in Liberty in Our Lifetime, which is an event
Yeah,
or
that's in
conference.
Prague, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hosted by the Free Cities Foundation. And the foundation runs their free communities directory, which Prospera and Ciudad Morazan are also part of, as well as Freeth'm. So
Hmm.
this is where we get plenty of potential residents from as well. And other events, we took part in Bitcoin Prague earlier this year in June, actually. Got some really nice prospects there as well. And of course, Telegram, which you mentioned at the very beginning. This is we've actually gotten a few people from there too. So yeah, just kind of spreading our web all over. But ultimately and essentially, I like to say anyone who genuinely appreciates and values and loves their life and the life of the people around them is welcome in Freeth'm. And of course, it's back to the resident contract that we spoke about a while ago. That again, anyone who will want to live in our town will be obliged to sign. So yeah, we respect, living, letting live. We of course abide by the non-aggression principle. So hope to attract people who are, you know, oriented towards the same things and are okay with following these principles. Which I mean, essentially, they should be just about everyone. Yeah, we're specific, of course, with letting people on.
I would like to just maybe with one sentence just to say just a remark that not only digital nomads and remote workers are invited or can make a living in freedom. You can rent a piece of land. You can rent yourself a commercial area. You can open your own coffee shop or restaurant. You can have, if you're a freelancer, you can find customers in
Hmm.
freedom to do. If you're a web developer or whatever, guys, freelancers do. Um, you want to develop something in industrial, so we have the lands and the early adapters to help with that. So especially for agrotech companies, if we're talking about products, and if we're talking about services, so decentralizing companies, tech companies that are helping to decentralize, they're helping to work with Bitcoin, with peer-to-peer trade. They're welcome to sit with us and recruit talent with us,
Hmm.
um, and create their companies there.
That's awesome. And I'm able to go over time. Hopefully, you guys don't have a hard stop. If we could do like 5 more minutes just
All
to
good.
wrap it up nicely, the episode. I was curious about the homeschooling aspect of things. And I know that's something I've seen in your advertising a bit before. What's the game plan there? Are you like bringing in a teacher or any kind of like structure, or what do you tell the homeschooler crowd?
Okay, so first, we attack this in different ways. So first, we build some facilities that are made for education purposes. Okay, that some of them are made specifically for kids. Some of them are made to be spaces for kids and adults together. There is an architect, or I think she's an architect, Roseanne Bosch. She developed a system of spaces that are made for people who work and the kids running around. So, in terms of sound, in terms of how to say, uh, Well, I hope you understood.
The
Schools that
synergy
are
of
meant,
working people and the kids running around, you
yes,
mean?
Right,
yes,
like learn by doing and stuff. They'll be out working on the farm and all this.
they can. We're not going to push them to do that, but if they're going to be, for example,
Child labor.
if you're going to be a musician, for example, who lives in the town and would like to give classes to kids, welcome. For example, we have one carpentry, a company from the States. I think they're from the States, right? Sloy. We didn't
I think
partner with
so,
them,
yeah.
but just another example. They build carpentaries for kids with everything is manual. So this is another type of extra education we can give. But you ask about more formal education. So let me try to explain. As Susanna said, we found few partners that they have homeschooling platforms. Okay, one of them is the Socratic Experience, and
Hmm.
he's teaching mainly one-on-one. There are small classes. He's teaching the whole class, and there are some classes one-on-one. Another platform, and this, sorry, before I jump to the next one, the Socratic Experience is going to have. We're developing it still, so I cannot promise, but we're developing a system that will have a few teachers from his school staying with us. Okay, but again, we are not pushing for any type of specific education. We don't have freedom education. our
Every
our
family is
goal our
welcome
goal is
to
to
Freeth'm.
enable different ways.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
we found a few good quality ones. We asked them to help us and give us a discount for our residents. And if they want to open a little branch or have something physical there, they're welcome, like I explained with the Socratic Experience. And if some of the parents wants to open a school or a little kindergarten, they can do so. Okay, so facilities, platforms that we get discounts with, and yeah, and I said facilities that are built, but also facilities that can be rented and designed and by any kind of parent or any kind of person that would like to do it there.
Yeah.
That's
And then
cool.
in regards with kids, I mean everyone really within the town, but children and animals especially, we want to keep the towns car free. So there will be parking on the premises or on the outskirts, of course, but within the town itself, just because the property is not huge, but there will be most likely golf carts, I suppose, and some other fun carts for kids that they can kind of operate.
Bicycles.
But
Yeah.
we want to keep it very safe, just so that children can do whatever they're best at. I mean, just roaming freely, exploring the world, and they don't have to worry about like any safety issues. I mean, obviously there's always safety issues, but no cars. And in terms of accessibility, the entire town or most of it is designed for pretty much any ages and any physical conditions, small children as well as more senior people perhaps, or again just any physical condition.
Yes.
So we're keeping it nice and accessible for the most part, hopefully. So that's also a nice factor, I think.
That's cool. I didn't know that. Portugal homeschooling is legal, but
Mm.
Spain not legal. Pretty
Yeah, I mean,
interesting.
Spain, it seems like it's kind of a gray zone. But again, like Ori said, we don't really want to trigger any potential triggers, any potential, government.
Makes
So we're
sense.
just playing it safe, and we
And
have, yeah,
is it even for Portuguese people? Homeschooling is legal.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think
yeah.
they
Okay.
have it in
Good.
their constitution.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. There's kind of a funny thing in Mexico where constitutionally Mexicans like have to go to school,
Hmm.
but if you're a foreigner, like you're not a citizen, so you don't really abide by that constitution. So homeschooling is kind of legal for foreigners in Mexico, but
Hmm.
not for citizens. Kind of a funny thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We get a lot of potential residents from Germany because homeschooling is very illegal in Germany. I mean, any alternative really ways of
Mm.
education are unfortunately not welcome in Germany. And so we have quite a few actually German families looking to relocate to Freedom just so they can provide a better future for themselves, for their kids, and actually choose how their children will be educated, rather than brainwashed possibly and indoctrinated.
I love it. So I
Yeah.
guess as we get to wrapping up, so taking action, I guess you can invest or you can rent once it's kind of done or close to being done. So we're probably, sounds like about a year out from renting, but maybe there's a way to get on the waiting list or something.
Yeah, for sure. So freethm.com, thm.com is our website, and you can find both our sign up forms for residents as well as investors. These are non binding forms, of course, no strings attached just now. But for investors, we're always happy to hop on an introductory call. We're just finalizing, all our documents, our business plan, which is a big document. We're
Hmm.
happy to share these to interested parties, of course. And then for residents, people interested in living in Freeth'm, whether that's an individual or a family or whoever, welcome to join our resident waitlist. People will find it on the website under Live With Us. And again, no strings attached just yet. It's non-binding. It's just a nice, simple, straightforward sign-up form. And we're always happy to chat with people, of course. Always happy to share more info to anyone who's interested. So yeah, people know where to find us. Hopefully, freethm.com.
And or is there a investment minimum or anything?
Well, yes, there will be a ticketing, a level of ticketing. We're not aiming right now for private investors. Like we're looking more for bigger firms.
Institutional investors? Okay.
Exactly. Yeah,
So you're not taking
not
50K
necessarily
checks?
institutional, but family offices. Uh, family offices. They're we're getting the most interest from family offices at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Definitely makes sense. Well, guys, go to the website, sign up for the wait list. I'm pretty down. I'm pretty down to come by, check it out. So
You're
I'm
more than welcome
excited.
to.
Yeah. I want to find a way to kind of be a part of this. So really exciting. There'll be a link in the description, guys. Before we head out, any final words?
Well, thank you for having us, Vance. Lovely chatting, of course. And it's nice to connect, all of these little dots all over the world. I mean, you in Mexico, we're here in Europe, soon to be in Portugal. So you're welcome to come visit, of course. And yeah, it was lovely to connect.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
I will
Yeah,
be. I'll be out in Portugal around February of next
Awesome.
year. So if you guys are around, happy to
yeah.
meet up.
Yeah. We'll stay in
Um,
touch.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So this has been another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Again, our guests today, Susanna and Or Sofer from Freeth'm. Link in the description, guys. Sign up for their wait list, learn more about the project, and I'm sure there's lots of different ways to get involved. Also, for the audience, wherever you're listening to this, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Twitter, YouTube, please be sure to subscribe. We put out 2 episodes a week with amazing guests like Freeth'm, and you won't want to miss an episode. Ciao for now.
Bye.